Welcome to Mind Research Rewired. We unveil scientific truths to transform confusion into clear thinking. Unlock a sharper, more effective you based on proven research. Subscribe now and elevate your life.
If you are executing your startup's business plan perfectly right now, you are almost certainly going to fail.
I mean, that sounds completely insane, but it is actually the truth.
It is. And welcome to this custom-tailored deep dive. We are talking directly to you today, the ambitious founder out there navigating the absolute chaos of building a venture.
The chaos is real.
Oh, it's so real. Whether you're, managing wildly complex technical builds or grinding through the endless cycles of securing grant funding, or even just trying to balance high-end creative design with the harsh realities of the market, the energy you need to survive is just off the charts.
Right, but, and this is the huge problem, most founders channel all of that incredible energy into building the exact wrong thing.
Yes, you see it constantly.
You really do. Like, a team draws up these perfect blueprints, they pour the concrete, they build this beautiful premium glass skyscraper of a product.
A total masterpiece.
Right. And then, only after it's done, they realize they didn't build it in a bustling downtown. They built it in the middle of a swamp.
Oh man, the swamp.
Yeah. I mean, the glass is premium, sure, but the foundation is sinking rapidly because literally nobody bothered to test the soil before they started pouring the concrete.
Which is, frankly, the absolute definition of executing your way right into failure. So our mission today is to rewire your mindset around disruption, around innovation, and ultimately how to escape what the startup world calls the valley of death.
Such a brutal term, but so accurate.
Totally. We are unpacking a masterclass stack of insights from a book called The Lean Entrepreneur by Brant Cooper and Patrick Vlaskovits. And this text takes traditional business planning, just flips it completely upside down, and proves why operating like a legacy Fortune 500 corporation will actually suffocate your startup before it even breathes.
We're going to break down how to stop drowning in your own visionary delusions, how to locate exactly where your market's pain is, and how to run rapid-fire experiments that practically guarantee traction.
Okay, let's unpack this. The authors start by taking a giant sledgehammer to this cultural phenomenon they call the myth of the visionary.
Yeah, the visionary myth, it is everywhere in startup culture.
It really is. It's this narrative that successful founders are essentially clairvoyant, right? The media portrays them as these lone geniuses who just stare into a crystal ball, predict the future of human behavior, and then just flawlessly write the code or design the apparel to bring that future to life.
But the reality is just, well, it's far less cinematic.
Right.
The text argues that real visionaries, they aren't predicting the future at all. I mean, they're just relentlessly testing, making mistakes, failing, and pivoting way faster than their competitors.
So it's not magic, it's just speed and testing.
Exactly. That visionary title, it's almost always a retroactive label. Society assigns it to them after they win, just to make sense of their massive success. But while they are actually in the trenches, they're just running a very disciplined scientific method.
So they aren't predicting the chaos, they just have a much better system for metabolizing it.
That is a brilliant way to frame it. Metabolizing the chaos.
Yeah.
And to understand how they do that, we have to look at the innovation spectrum.
Right.
The authors divide this into two distinct categories. You have sustaining innovation and you have disruptive innovation.
Okay, break that down for us.
So sustaining innovation happens when the core problem is already super well understood by the market.
Like the classic transition from a 5 1/4-inch floppy disk to a 3 1/2-inch drive.
Yes, perfect example.
Right, because the customer already knows what a computer is, they know what a disk is, they knew they need to store data. They literally just want a smaller, more durable version of what they already have.
Exactly. And in that specific scenario, traditional business planning actually works.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I mean, you can run focus groups, you can ask the customer what they want, write a linear business plan, and just execute the manufacturing. But, and this is the big but disruptive innovation, operates in a completely different universe.
Because that's creating entirely new markets, like the iPhone completely destroying the telecom hegemony overnight.
Right. Disruptive innovation deals with extreme uncertainty. It's what Nassim Taleb calls a black swan event. It is fundamentally unknowable until it actually hits the market.
Because the problem isn't well understood yet.
Exactly. And the market's reaction is entirely unpredictable because they literally have no frame of reference for what you are building.
Okay, but wait, let me play devil's advocate for a second here.
Go for it.
If we are talking about disruptive innovation, the ultimate case study is Steve Jobs, right?
Oh, for sure.
And he famously hated focus groups. I mean, he openly said it wasn't the customer's job to know what they want. He just trusted his own internal compass and built what he knew was beautiful. Doesn't that completely validate the visionary myth? Like, he just knew.
You'd think so, right. But the text provides this brilliant historical detail that completely rebuts that exact assumption.
Wait, really?
Yeah. So Steve Jobs didn't use formal focus groups, that part is true. But he was obsessively studying customer behavior. He visited Apple retail stores constantly, like he supposedly even hid in the bushes outside the stores in the early days.
Wait, hiding in the bushes? Are you serious? Just watching people walk in?
Literally observing them in their natural habitat.
Right.
He wasn't doing this to ask them what they wanted, because to your point, they didn't know.
Right.
I mean, think about it. If you asked a customer in 2005 what they wanted in a mobile phone, their domain knowledge was totally limited to BlackBerries and flip phones.
They would have just asked for a physical keyboard with slightly smaller buttons.
Exactly. Or maybe, like, a louder ringtone. They literally could not conceive of a multi-touch sheet of glass. Jobs was observing their posture, their frustrations, how they physically interacted with technology in the wild. He was not asking for their feature requests.
Okay, wow. So if we are building something truly disruptive, asking a customer, what do you want, is actually a useless question because they are trapped in the paradigm of today.
Spot on.
But
Okay.
that creates a massive problem for the founder listening right now. If I can't ask my target market what they want, how do I know what to build? Do I just sit in a dark room, guess, and hope I get lucky?
No, not at all. The text provides a very strict mandate for this exact dilemma. You must act like a doctor.
A doctor. Meaning I need to focus entirely on diagnosing their symptoms rather than, like, taking their advice on the cure.
Yes. Think about the physical mechanics of a doctor's visit. A doctor doesn't walk into the exam room and ask the patient, how to perform a bypass surgery.
Great, that would be terrifying.
Yeah. They don't ask the patient to prescribe their own complex medication regimen. Instead, the doctor pokes, they probe, they press on your stomach and ask, hey, does it hurt when I do this?
They are looking for symptoms.
They are looking to find out exactly where the pain is and, most importantly, why the pain exists. They diagnose the underlying pathology.
The golden rule of this entire methodology seems to be that the customer owns the pain, but the founder owns the vision for the solution.
That is the perfect way to summarize it. The customer is literally the world's leading expert on their own suffering. Your job as a founder is to extract the nuances of that suffering.
But let me challenge the speed of that process. Because poking and prodding sounds incredibly slow. And as a founder, I mean, my runway is burning every single day.
Oh, the pressure is immense.
I have investors breathing down my neck. Isn't it just infinitely faster to pitch my idea to the market and see if they buy it? Like walking up to a group of people and just saying, hey, wouldn't it be cool if I built this app that did X, Y, and Z?
Oh, man. That specific phrase, wouldn't it be cool if, is legitimately the most dangerous sentence in a founder's vocabulary.
Most dangerous.
Without a doubt.
Okay.
It is exactly how entrepreneurs intentionally blind themselves. The text uses this fascinating real-world story to deconstruct why pitching like that completely fails.
Okay, let's hear it.
So there was a leader at a startup workshop who was absolutely convinced he had a killer idea. He insisted that people needed a social accountability app, specifically one that provided public urging from friends to help them overcome personal obstacles.
Okay, so like an app where you declare a goal, maybe running a marathon, and your friends publicly cheer you on or hold your feet to the fire.
Exactly.
I mean, I'll be honest, it sounds incredibly plausible.
Right. It sounds highly investable on paper. And he pitched it to his circle of friends using that exact framing. He literally said, wouldn't it be cool if you had an app that did this?
Let me guess. They all loved it.
Naturally.
Right.
They all said yes. He walked away with unanimous validation. His internal feedback loop told him, I am sitting on a gold mine.
Because, and this is the psychology of it, nobody wants to look their friend in the eye and say, your passion project is terrible and I would literally never download that.
Exactly. Social dynamics completely warp the data. When you pitch an idea, you aren't actually testing the market. You are just testing the politeness of your audience.
Which yields massive confirmation bias.
Huge confirmation bias. But here's the mechanism of how they uncovered the actual truth. His team basically forced him to get out of the building. They stopped pitching the idea and started acting like doctors.
So they went looking for the pain.
Yes. They went out and looked for people who were actively trying to overcome personal obstacles right then and just asked them about their symptoms. Like, how are they currently solving it? What was frustrating about the process?
And I'm guessing the market didn't actually want their friends screaming at them on a public dashboard.
The feedback was overwhelmingly negative.
Wow.
Yeah. Real people facing real obstacles felt highly vulnerable. They wanted privacy. They definitely did not want public performance. So pitching the idea yielded fake validation. Diagnosing the pain revealed the actual truth.
That is wild. So politeness gives us fake validation, which is a massive trap. But okay, what happens when we actually get real users, real validation, and we still fail? Because that brings us to one of the most terrifying concepts in the book, the Valley of Death.
Oh, the graveyard of startups.
Seriously.
The Valley of Death is this incredibly perilous transition phase. It's when you go from having an MVP, a minimum viable product, to establishing an MVB, a minimum viable business.
And most startups die there.
Most of them. And they don't usually die here because they have zero customers. They die because they have just enough customers to trick themselves into thinking they've won.
Okay, the authors use a very specific mathematical metric here that I want to unpack for everyone. They mention a startup having a viral coefficient of maybe 0.42.
Right, the 0.42 trap.
Right. And for anyone who isn't deep in growth metrics right now, a viral coefficient basically measures how many new users each existing user brings in. So if the number is above 1.0, your growth is exponential. Every user brings in more than one new user. You're flying.
But a viral coefficient of 0.42, I mean, that is a death sentence masquerading as traction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mathematically, it means if you acquire 100 users, they only bring in 42 new users. And then those 42 bring in about 17. Those 17 bring in 7.
It just dwindles.
It is a leaky bucket that trends straight to zero. So you have a little bit of interest, you have some early adopters who might even be super passionate, but you have absolutely zero organic, scalable growth.
And this mathematical reality is exactly where the psychological trap snaps shut on the founder.
How so?
Well, those early adopters give founders a false sense of security because those first 100 users love the product, right? So the founders look at the stalling growth and they misdiagnose the problem. They think, well, the core product is perfect. We are just missing one killer feature. If we just, add this one integration or change the color palette, the mainstream market will finally flood in.
So instead of figuring out why the bucket is leaking, they just start bedazzling the bucket. They get stuck endlessly engineering new features.
Bedazzling the bucket. That's exactly it. And in the lean startup methodology, waste is strictly defined as any activity that does not produce validated learning.
Okay, that's huge.
Writing code or designing apparel for a market you haven't actually captured yet. That is pure waste.
So if your viral coefficient is 0.42, you shouldn't be building new features. You should be completely tearing apart your conversion funnel or running wild experiments to find a brand new customer acquisition channel.
You have to optimize the business model, not just the product.
Okay, this brings up a massive debate point that I have to push back on.
All right, let's hear it.
The text cites Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, and his incredibly famous quote, "If you are not embarrassed by the first version of your product, you've launched too late."
A classic.
It is, and I understand the sentiment. But let's look at this from the perspective of an ambitious founder who is building a premium brand. Say you are launching high-end enterprise software or a luxury apparel line. Doesn't launching an embarrassing, buggy product permanently torch your reputation?
It feels like it would.
Right. Like if my software crashes during a Fortune 500 demo or my first run of luxury jackets literally falls apart at the seams, haven't I just run off my investors and destroyed my brand equity forever?
That cognitive dissonance you're describing is exactly what paralyzes so many founders. You feel like you are risking absolutely everything on a bad first impression.
Because you kind of are.
But, and this is where the text resolves it, you have to fundamentally reframe the mechanism of an MVP. You have to use their continuous learning framework to understand what a launch actually is.
So a launch isn't a grand unveiling.
Not early on. Definitely not. When you put that first rough version into the market, you are not optimizing for flawless execution. And you're definitely not optimizing for reputation protection.
Then what are you optimizing for?
You're organizing the entire event around buying data. You must learn what the core value actually is before you spend millions of dollars polishing it.
Okay, wow.
Consider the alternative, right? If you spend 2 years in stealth mode perfecting the premium stitching on a jacket or writing bulletproof code for a software platform, but you are solving a problem nobody actually cares about, you haven't protected your reputation. You've just efficiently executed a total failure.
That is a phenomenal reframe. An MVP is not an execution test. It is a learning test. I have to figure out if people even want to wear a jacket in this specific climate before I spend my entire grant funding on, like, premium zipper engineering.
Exactly. You're learning your way to the right value proposition.
Which begs the operational question. If we accept that we need to launch early and learn, how do we physically escape that valley of death without burning through our entire runway?
By running what the authors call viability experiments. The true measure of a founder's success is not how many lines of code they wrote today. It's not how many pitch decks they polished.
What is it then?
It is the raw number of experiments they can crowd into a single 24-hour period.
So it is entirely about speed and intentionality. And a viability experiment isn't just throwing random ideas at a wall to see what sticks, right? It is about isolating a specific risk in your business model and creating a very fast mechanism to test it before you build out the full infrastructure.
Yes, and the book is packed with amazing case studies on this. Look at how hardware startups use Kickstarter.
Oh, this is a great example.
Building physical hardware is notoriously expensive. So before paying for massive injection molds and huge manufacturing runs, a startup put their concept on Kickstarter. And it wasn't just for capital, it was a pure viability experiment.
They needed to know if the market actually craved the solution enough to pull out their credit cards and pay for it before it even existed.
Exactly. And they got 1,300 passionate backers. They pre-sold 1,500 units. But the mechanism went even deeper than that. By running this experiment, they created this, like, shadow force of early adopters who spread the word so aggressively that Apple actually took notice and reached out to them.
That is insane.
Right. That single cheap experiment validated the market, funded the prototype, and secured a massive distribution pipeline.
That is leveraging the internet perfectly. And then there's the TaskRabbit example. Today, TaskRabbit is this massive two-sided marketplace for gig work. But when they were starting out, they didn't spend 6 months agonizing over a brand identity or building a robust, fully automated back-end infrastructure.
What did they do?
They used 99 designs to crowdsource a quick logo just so they could look legitimate enough to run their real tests.
Because they correctly identified their assumptions. They knew a beautiful logo wasn't the riskiest assumption in their business model.
Right.
Their riskiest assumption was purely behavioral. Would a stranger actually pay another stranger on the internet to run their errands or walk their dog? They minimized the time spent on branding to maximize the time spent testing that core behavioral assumption.
It's so smart, but I want to make sure we don't just paint this as a scrappy, two guys in a garage methodology. The text highlights O2 Telecom, which is a massive legacy incumbent company in the UK.
How O2 Telecom internalized this is an absolute masterclass. They looked at the landscape and realized their existential threat wasn't coming from other slow-moving telecom giants. Their real competitors were internet companies like Apple and Google, who just operate at light speed.
Because Google can iterate their software like 3 times before a telecom company finishes a single board meeting.
Exactly. So to survive, O2 Telecom had to radically change their internal mechanisms. They adopted what they explicitly called Twitter speed, continuous beta testing.
Twitter speed, I love that.
Yeah, they completely decoupled their teams so that even as a massive bureaucratic incumbent, they could run viability experiments at the speed of the internet, releasing, testing, adapting, all without needing top-down executive approval for every minor change.
So distilling all of this down for the founder listening right now, your job is not to be blindly faithful to your initial product idea. Your job is to relentlessly validate or invalidate your underlying assumptions.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the entire goal of this methodology is evolutionary. You begin as a lean startup, where your singular metric of success is learning.
Learning, not earning, not yet.
Right. But as you validate assumptions, run these 24-hour experiments, and finally secure true product-market fit, you evolve. You transition from a lean startup into a lean enterprise, shifting your focus from learning into executing and scaling.
And that transition is where the real generational wealth and impact are actually built. Okay, we have covered some heavy psychological and strategic ground today, but you know how we operate on the deep dive. We never leave you with just abstract theory.
Never.
It is time for the Do It Today segment. We're distilling this massive text into 2 hyper-tactical actions you can execute the second this audio stops.
Action number 1, map the riskiest assumption. The authors use a brilliant, slightly absurd example in the book called hopped up peanut butter.
Oh man, caffeine and taurine-infused peanut butter. It sounds like a heart attack in a jar, but the structural breakdown is fantastic.
It really perfectly illustrates the mechanism of mapping a business. You need to go to a whiteboard and draw out your entire ecosystem. For the energy peanut butter, you have the ingredient licensors, the manufacturing facilities, the health food store buyers, and obviously the end consumers.
Right.
Once you draw the whole map, you must isolate the one single assumption that, if you are wrong about it, instantly vaporizes the company.
Okay, so for the peanut butter, you have technical risk. Can you actually make caffeine paste taste good? But the much bigger market risk is, will health food stores actually give you shelf space for something this bizarre?
Exactly. Once you isolate that single biggest risk, you must design a 24-hour test to validate it. And you do this without building the core product. The text outlines a few incredible ways to do this. You can run a concierge test.
Let's define that clearly. A concierge test is a highly manual, high-touch experiment. So if you are building an AI travel booking app, you don't build the AI first. You act like a high-end concierge. You personally get on the phone, talk to the customer, and manually book their flights to see if the service itself is actually valuable to them.
Exactly. The customer knows they're interacting with a human. Alternatively, you can run a Wizard of Oz test.
Which is the man behind the curtain approach.
Yes. In a Wizard of Oz test, the front end looks completely automated to the customer. They type their travel dates into a sleek landing page, thinking a massive algorithm is doing the work. But behind the curtain, you are frantically typing away, manually finding the flights and emailing them the itinerary.
It's brilliant.
Both of these tests validate the core behavioral assumption without requiring you to write a single line of back-end code.
Pure viability testing. I love it. Okay, action number 2. The rule of 1 customer hunt. The authors are incredibly explicit about this being job 1. If you are a founder, stop hiding behind your dual monitors.
Please stop.
Stop looking at spreadsheets and aggregate data. Leave the physical comfort of your home or office today and go find exactly one human being who is deeply emotionally impacted by the pain you are trying to solve.
And when you find them, do not pitch them. Do not use the phrase, "Wouldn't it be cool if?" Act like the doctor. Just listen to their symptoms. Understand the texture of their frustration. If you can deeply understand the pathology of one single person's pain, you can begin to extrapolate that out to an entire market.
2 incredibly powerful frameworks you can apply today. Map your riskiest assumption and design a concierge or Wizard of Oz test for it in 24 hours. And go diagnose the symptoms of exactly one ideal customer.
As we start to wind down here, there is one final, really lingering thought that emerges from all of this research.
What's that?
Well, we spend so much time obsessing over how to act like a nimble startup, right? How to disrupt legacy markets, and how to scale into a successful executing incumbent.
Because that is the ultimate dream, becoming the Fortune 500 player.
Right. But the ultimate paradox of the lean entrepreneur is this. The exact moment you successfully scale, the moment you stop learning and transition entirely into that big executing incumbent, you instantly become the prime target for the next wave of disruption. If you reach the top of the mountain and you lose the humility of the, experimental mindset, it doesn't matter how premium your venture is. You will eventually become the next irrelevant 5¼ inch floppy disk. The requirement for continuous learning never actually stops.
You become the hunted. That is a chilling but deeply inspiring reality check to leave ringing in our ears today. Which brings us to our interactive self-reflection. We want to hear from you. Down in the comments, we want you to answer these 2 high-stakes questions and be brutally honest with yourself.
Yes, honesty is key here.
First, what is the one visionary assumption you are stubbornly holding on to right now that you haven't actually tested in the real world? Put it out in the open.
And second, if you were forced to launch a viability experiment in the next 24 hours without writing a single line of code or building a physical prototype, what exactly would your test look like?
Drop your strategies, your struggles, and your breakthroughs in the comments. Building a startup is a brutal, beautiful, exhausting journey. But you are not alone in the swamp. We are here every single week to arm you with the psychological frameworks and research you need to rewire your mind, pour a solid foundation, and build something that actually shifts the culture.
If this deep dive just saved you 6 months of burning runway on the exact wrong features, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.
It really supports the massive amount of work we put into bringing you these insights.
Keep testing, keep diagnosing the pain.
Until next time, remember, if you build your premium skyscraper in a swamp without testing the mud first, don't be surprised when the whole thing sinks. Catch you on the next deep dive.